there to thank you to them, because they've helped us tremendously. And every agency, fire agency, police agency in the county, they've always been real helpful, so we thank them a lot too.
I always kind of wondered how he's going to have Mike fit in there as our administrator. I don't know what we do without him now. We put him as a firefighter and he was really good at it. But I think he even makes a better administrator for us.
Eric has such a wide base, as we all know, of everything that he's involved in. And so I think that really the easiest thing, it's here, there. That way you get a good chance to see, because he covers so many different areas. Before we get started, I know this has turned into a love fest, but that's the truth. I think that as we're looking at certain things, the way that people are starting to step up, I will tell you, in the year and a half or whatever that I've been in this seat, the person I've grown to respect more, not that I respect the rest of you, but from who I knew from before is Eric and the job that he does. And all of the things that are put upon him, as you see. I don't know how he stays in this, but he does a great job. So
I told you the best for last, right here.
Well, the accomplishments for 18 are in there, but one thing that there's no way I can do a list of this, not by myself. Obviously, thank Aaron, because he's getting him hired in. He's been a good hire. It's took a lot of stress off of me having to hit every negative thing. So Aaron takes a lot of the negative things I can kind of put there, and then I can bounce things off, and he asks me a question. So that's taken a lot of, so I can focus a little bit more on those things. Also, boards and commissions. I work with a lot of different boards and commissions. Everything there has a board. So obviously we have 2 planning commission members here tonight, Brian and Helen. They're volunteers. You know, they come in, and we've been through a really rough year at planning commission. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of different changes we're trying to implement. So and things we're trying to do. So it was I appreciate all their help. Obviously, you know, a few of you made it to the Good Morning Gratiot. This year we had some really nice businesses come to town and some really great improvements. Without them obviously investing, then working with us, that doesn't happen. And obviously the volunteers, KEB, especially Allen Action Association, they help me out a lot. Obviously the departments that come and help out all those different events, can't do it without them. And yeah, that's it. And it's just, I'm in all these pieces, but everything else doesn't happen without those things. So for this year, I just want to touch a few places of more of an action plan than goals, I guess you'd say. Downtown, trees are a big issue, and we discussed those again at KEB. Also, Keep Ellen Beautiful on Monday night. Really looked at, I think we took down 6 this last year, so we didn't look at removal, and then how many do we replace, and then location. Do we put back in as many trees as we had before, or do we space them out? Type of tree, that's just going to be a nightmare to figure out. If you look back at the ones we have now, it was a community committee that put that together and chose those trees. So, and we all hate them now. So it's going to be a tough decision on what to put there. Street lights and parking lots are a big thing for us. The Opera Block with the college, obviously that will help take care of Lot 4, which is behind where the main cafe is. And Lot 8, which is back behind Brown Printing. That will also hopefully get us all those lights in that block. And obviously we'd like to work out a plan for this year, working with MDOT, see if we can get some monies to finish up some of those the rest of those street lights down through there. Planning economic development. I know Sheila's mentioned this before too, but we really need to update our zoning ordinance and recodify our zoning ordinances, because we've tried to do a lot of changes. So those things need to be updated and put into the zoning ordinance officially, other than going to our website saying ordinance number, it's been approved, but it's not codified into our zoning ordinance. Obviously, we need to continue on the redevelopment ready communities program. I said in our first quarterly report here this last month, we got a ways to go with that, and actually it touches in a bunch of different areas, and that we'll get that actually in parks actually. So that needs to, it'd be great if we could finish that up within the year, because there's some other things that maybe we could ask for them for help. And then for the action steps of utilizing the master plan. As part of that RRC, if we can get to a certain place, we just, the finalization of the master plan, which is part of the county master plan, they really want us to get more specific with our goals that's in there. So it'd be nice, Matt's talked about a little bit, bringing someone in to talk with the community about some goals and some action steps there, and then hold to them. That's the other thing that I've seen in some of the past of some of the things that have taken 20 years. That's why it's taken so long. As well, we have a plan that was a community-wide plan, and then you have friction and things that have taken a long time to finish. Inspection services. This year, Aaron and I did have the opportunity to be I think it was 8 different businesses or buildings that let us walk through and get our certification for fire inspection. We'd like to finalize that program and get that underway. Obviously, we've had some discussions and learning a little bit more. We got some new buildings that came online, so we're doing occupancy permits for occupancy numbers for those. So we're getting used to that stuff. But we're also learning that it's just not going to be just an easy walk in the park, walking into someone's building, even if they're inviting you and trying to tell them that, well, this could use some work, this is going to use some work. It has to happen. Obviously, we had 3 fires since 2010, so those are important things that we have to do. Obviously, another one big one that's coming up that's going to take up some time, not from my department, Mark's department, Alan's department with wastewater, with a medical marijuana, looking through those applications and getting them in the proper locations. And then once those licenses are actually approved, then going through the actual building permits, mechanical, and then actually the implementation of the safety plan, the implementation of the site plans. So that's going to be a big one from the coming year. And then we'd also want to review, just so it's part of the RRC process, review our inspection, planning fees, rentals, site plan, special uses, variances, rezoning. Doesn't mean that we're off on those fees. Just a quick thing that we did the other day, looking at Mount Pleasant and then St. Louis. Obviously, Mount Pleasant is who we want to be, from a standpoint of inspection services, because they do a really good job, but a bigger department. What they charge, and then St. Louis, they're in our kind of our housing market, and we're right in the middle of the 2 of them for what we charge for rental fees. So there's probably 1, maybe 2 things we could tweak to charge a little bit more to help recoup our costs, but we don't want to push ourselves too far up and really get people upset. So find that balance there. Parks, obviously this year, once the weather changes, we'll get the walking path done around the playscape. Met with Bill Compton, Bob Albrecht, and Doug Brooks, and I met with Bill Compton out there last week to look at the lighting scheme. So hopefully that we can have that all done before festival. We did not receive the funding for the restrooms for the DNR grant. The next round is actually due on April 1st, so we'll be getting that before you. We have to go through that public hearing and stuff again to get that resubmitted. And they obviously gave some scoring, some things that we could change to make our application look better. Continue talks. I know Matt and the mayor have met with the county parks board to kind of talk about the funding that comes to the county and how that funding sources could be maybe divvied up within the communities other than just the county parks. The bicycle group, Matt has put together a bicycle action group. They have been meeting and along with the Parks Board develop a policy of non-motorized transportation. That's another requirement that's under the RRC, that we have to have some kind of a policy that whenever we're looking at roads, anything dealing with public transportation, that we are looking at the non-motorized portion of it also. It has to be formalized, has to be the policy. Airport, we don't really get involved with that too much from the city side of things, but we're a major part of it. We have the airport, Gresham Airport Authority for that. This year, actually very soon, we'll be doing a major tree removal. We also have to do an update of our consultant selection. Every 5 years, every airport has to choose a new consultant that's approved by MDOT Aeronautics that will help you through your 5-year plan. One of those things we have to do within the next year is update our airport layout plan. Even though nothing has changed, we're required to do that if we want to continue to receive entitlements. For the big one that's coming up that we have to change out also, and I mean, there's other things that have to happen before we can ask for this, is our fuel farm. Our the equipment that's been out there was put in when basically Leonard and all those were here, and they built the original corporate hangar out there. That company put in the tanks, and they've been privately held ever since. That's really rare in GA airports especially. So we're working with the state of Michigan on how we can replace those using our entitlement dollars, because they cover the entitlement dollars cover 95% of a project. Locals would cover 2.5%, the state covers that 2.5%. So, but we have to have that tree removal and all those sort of things. One piece of good news that we have a new cardiologist in town who's a big flyer, has 3 planes. There's a big recruit that they wanted from the state here to come to Alma. Even got a phone call from the hospital asking, hey, if you could talk to him about how nice our airport is, and be a good place for him to come and bring his planes and come here to practice. I've never had that happen before. I never have. I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened. Even with the businesses, you never hear that either. You don't have people calling you, oh, I came here because of this. I mean, this is one big thing for them. Met with him and his wife just before the snowfly. They're looking at building an 80 by 100 hangar out, 80 foot by 100 foot hangar out there, private hangar. So we're working through the process with the state of Michigan with that, which is important because those things help with your numbers, fuel sales, and everything else that comes along with that. Obviously, there's 2 main things that are on this thing that you see on both ends of it. Trees from downtown in the beginning, and then trees in the airport again. There's going to be a lot of murder of trees in the next year here. It is. It's and then trying to figure out a way to change that. And there's schools of thought on, except that people talk about tall ones, and small leaves, big leaves, hate the pods. Trees are important. Even New York City has finally found that out. New York City put in tons of money into putting trees into their communities. So if New York City is doing it, obviously it's important that we have trees. Just got to figure out where to put them, what type of tree, and just know that our future selves are going to hate those trees. They're going to hate them no matter what. That's just
Get
the
to a
bottom
certain
line.
point.
But we need them. They do provide a look and feel for the downtown that you just don't know until they're gone. For instance, City of Manistee, we went for a mayor exchange. It's been a few years ago now. So they have a really nice fund balance in their capital improvements projects. They got in way before you couldn't capture school dollars. You can't capture school dollars now in TIF anymore. So they have plenty of money to do really nice things with their streetscape. They put a new streetscape in, these beautiful stone pedestals that they set their street lights on. No trees. Well, within 5-6 years of that, now if you drive up there, there's trees in the downtown. So it's just one of those things that, yeah, they're a pain in the butt, but in the long run, there's something that you want to keep there. And that is going to be probably the first one we start seeing. Because like I said, we did 6 that were taken down this year. We'll probably see more than that come down this year. Because I know some of that stuff is with the sidewalk issues too that are in the downtown, that the trees got to come out before we can deal with some of those things. So, but that's what we hope to at least get most of this done this year. If everything goes well, if from the RRC standpoint, maybe they can kick us money for a housing market analysis for us. We haven't done one of those since, I think it's 2004 was the last one we've done with that. So.
Thank you. What?
Well, the major job of a city clerk is elections, so that was my big thing for 2018. And when most people think of elections, they think of primary, general, August, November. No, elections start January 1st of 2018. And actually it didn't end until December 28th when the state released the 2018 election materials for final retention. So it's definitely a full year of elections. We did have brand new machines that we had to use this year. We had to have all our election inspectors certified, and the setting up the primary and the general elections. And then finally, the state decided to pick precinct 3 for a post-election audit. So it was a full year. There was a lot of hurdles that seemed to get thrown in the way, but in the end, 2018 was a very successful election calendar year. And in November, we had 54% of all our registered voters out to vote. But 2018 was also a great year for the city in the fact that we passed 10 ordinances that will long help the city grow, from establishing the medical marijuana regulations, the regulations and prohibitions of certain water wells within the city, all our conditional rezonings, and up to updating our solid waste section of the code of ordinances. So my goals, as going along with Eric here, is that we need to recodify our city ordinances, like with just having this 10 last year, especially the medical marijuana one. We need to have our book recodified. We also have changed to a new third-party provider for our health insurance here for the city employees, and we're just starting that process right now. So I want to make sure that during this year it runs smoothly and our employees have no problems with that. And I want to keep the team objective through the departments going well. It seems like we have accomplished so many projects this year, and it was all of us working well together. That's what we're going to do this year.
The finance portion, so as you don't know, Cynthia had foot surgery and really shouldn't be, she came into the office for a couple hours today, or even a little while, and probably shouldn't be even doing anything on that foot. So she's not going to be here tonight. But I will touch on some of the accomplishments that we discussed. Actually, I think the one that touched all of us right off the bat was the budget process. It was quite an undertaking for all of us to sit down together, and all of us for the first time, maybe for some of us first time ever, to have a real voice in how the budget process was to work. And as we went through that process of getting that, it appears that it was much easier to go through. By the time what we presented wasn't a novel, but a shorter version that hopefully was easier to understand. I think we all learned a lot through that process. I know you've never heard of this before, but we did get BSNA up and running. Not that we didn't talk about that for every meeting or every time we even saw you for almost 6 or 7 months. But that was a major deal for us to get the BSNA, which is our software program within the city. We have extremely high hopes that it's going to turn us into just an unbelievable organization. But it is working. It is working as we've become more patient and understanding it, and that's been a good thing. We were able to come in last year under budget, actually put some money back into the fund balance. And then probably the other thing I look at is I think we were able to establish what that fund balance is used for, put a policy out there, and where do we want it to be going forward that we work through with the commission. Moving forward goals is really, it's going to be a common theme as I move into this next part. It's getting the practices, getting the procedures, getting the ways that the department needs to run down to, and Eric mentioned it too, getting those things into line so that we're all operating the same way and that we're doing that. And I think that'll probably be the major goal within finance this year. Again, now taking that budget process through a new system through BSNA and getting us through there. So that would be where we're headed from there. Before I just move into the organizational things that we're looking at, this was important in a major way to me. When I said to these guys at first, you're going to get up and speak, some of them no problem, others, oh my dear God, what are we going to do? This is the work they've done all year long, and I think it's important you hear what was important to everybody here and where they want to go. A couple people said this, I am really big on, and for a couple of reasons. Run your department, because I don't know your department, okay? But everybody does a really good job of keeping me informed, of talking with me, and we're going through things from there. And so I hope that, as Sheila just said, we have really developed as a team, as an administrative team, and we're crossing over and asking each other questions, and so we need to continue that process as we go, because in reality, in my mind, we are just starting. For all we've done and everything that we've gone through over the last year, year and a half, or for some of us that have been with the organization 28 years, however long we've been here, where we've been with a lot of the changes that are going on, we're just starting up the hill now. Because as tough maybe as this has been, I think we're just reaching the real difficult portion now, because there has been a lot of talk, a lot of meeting, a lot of coming together of our minds and things. We have reached a point now that we have to do. Okay? In order to prove what we're really about now, we have to take the harder steps and do these things that we've been talking about. The rubber's meeting the road right here is where we've got. So, as I look at those 4 themes that we've been working on, and the first one, employee engagement and development. As the organization, and this is where if you have any feedback as we're talking, I think it's very important to bring them up, because these are really the things that we're going to drill down a little bit more than where we were at with these overall concepts and say, no, this year now, when we're talking about the employee engagement and development, we need to identify, develop, and implement work processes that will define how we do our jobs on a consistent basis. If there's one thing I think we really, really are struggling with and that we lack here, it's that direction. It is that idea of our work processes. How do we do this? Some people within their own department are very good at their own. I'm devastated that the police department's going to change their policy and procedures. I worked for years on that, but I'm okay. Actually, that was 8 years ago. It is time to change. But we have individual policies maybe that work within our departments, how they work together, or we have some that, quite frankly, we don't have a work process. We are floundering trying to figure out what we do on a daily basis. So it's going to be really important as we look at our workflow systems, those policy and procedure manuals that we're trying to get. We have a workflow system, I will be open and honest, we have a workflow system that has been in this city for years. I don't even know when we got City Tech, that we no longer use properly. Because we don't start it at the start of the workflow. It goes in from the back end usually, because we've got to account for things from the back end. But because of some frustrations through the years, a lot of us, myself included, in other departments, quit using it properly, and we just kind of let it go. We're going to get that back. And that's one of my projects for the years, to get us back into first establishing whether it is City Tech, or should we be looking at something new that's not so complex. One of it is the leadership development. It's finding our voice, preparing future leaders for the department. I think that part of the next step that's really necessary as we've been going through this is that we get on the same page of understanding leadership and understanding, especially as department heads and managers, and I've tried to keep portraying this to them when we have our meetings, that I want you to be the leaders within your department. I want you to establish who are going to be the future leaders in your department. Those people need to be recognized that we can see need to move up the chain at some point in time. I've heard for years and years and years about succession planning in the city of Elma. We've never been very good at it. We need to be good at that. We need to identify people, not be intimidated by letting the person who works for you work with you on things, and be good enough to be able to handle that. So I think we'll continue. On March 1st, I had sent these guys all a save the date thing, and I've never seen some people freak out more because I didn't tell them what it was. I just said, save the date. I got you on that Friday, March 1st, leave that date open. And it was like, well, I don't know what was that? So I said, we're going to do a leadership day. We're going to establish some things leadership-wise from our management team and from our supervisors. So I think we keep doing that so that we stay on that one voice. We need to formalize the employee development team a little bit better. I think it's been good, but it's directed almost all by me doing. I want to start to push that towards the employees more to decide what do they think. I also want all departments represented. So we're going to have to figure out some times and some better ways to make sure we can get everybody there to do that. For those of you who don't know, we've done some really good things this year. I think we've gotten together a lot of times. We've had, Brett did it at Transit, police department did it one, Brian's got we're having Valentine's Day at Brian's at breakfast that morning. We are getting together more as a whole staff and seeing each other differently. We had a Christmas get-together where everybody came, just an informal lunch and doing that. I think that's important that we keep doing that. So I want to keep pushing that. Plan for training. Over the last 2 months, I would say, I've really been able to come to grips with the fact that we don't train enough as an organization. Okay? I come from the police world, so training's different there. There's things that have to be done. And I don't mean training in leadership and management. I think that's important. I mean we don't train our employees many times on the tasks they do every day. And what's happened over years, they figured out their own job. That's why we have trouble sometimes with flow, because we've developed all of these workarounds on how to get it done. And so there really has to be a commitment, especially as we're looking at the budget season and getting started to look at our numbers. I think we have to be very, very conscious that we have to train. We've put some new systems in place, we've done some training, but we've all shown up for training before and sat there. And you've done the training, you walk out and you have no idea what you were doing. So a commitment level that has to come from our employees to make sure that when we're training, we're taking it serious, and we understand this is a part of your job that you have to understand. Okay? The thing I sent out to everybody, I bet 70% of them mentioned customer service training. And in government, we don't like to, they're not customers. Why are they? Customer service training is something I believe we're going to have to do this year. And I'm not saying it's because we're rude to people or anything like that. I think that it's that idea that we, as government employees, have to understand that we do have customers. And how do we bring that into our way of thinking when we do things. So we're going to do some customer service training, not just the people who have that public thing at the counter, but we all encounter the public every day. And so how do we deal with them? Aaron, you may actually just give the training. The big deal. So that's really the overall for the employee engagement. Again, going back to the very first thing where I started, this is kind of, we're still continuing all those other things. They're not gone. These are just the points of emphasis. When you talk about community engagement, we're going to increase our engagement through more direct interaction. And this is where Justin comes into play with a lot of this also, of helping. One of the things that I've been kicking around for a while is this, I don't know how else to say it, it's like taking our show on the road. I think with all of the different public hearings and public meetings we've had over the last year for a lot of the things, and we really love everybody that shows up. But generally, the only people who show up at any kind of public meeting is in opposition. And there's a purpose for that, because the majority, sometimes majority, silent majority they don't feel like they have to come out and support it because it's going to happen no matter what happens. And so we don't hear from a lot of people. Avon Park Police Department started this. And this was at the MML conference when we were there. I called them. They expanded from their police department into the whole city. They started a Facebook thing that just was like, we want to talk to you. And so they put a thing on Facebook that would just say, who wants to talk to us, talk about the city government. And then some neighborhood would say, I live on Main Street, I can get 4 of my neighbors. Okay, I live on 2nd Street, I can get 5 of my neighbors. And they'll go back and forth for a little bit, and they'll say, okay, on Thursday at 7 o'clock, we're going to bring a table out, we'll bring some coffee or pizza, we're going to sit down. You get those 4 or 5. That 4 or 5 usually ends up being double that or more than that because people want to know what's going on when you're out there. And there's no agenda. There's no agenda. It's we're going to sit here, you have questions? And now I can't say to every department head every time, we're going to do this every week and you're going to be there. But hopefully over a period of time, we'll get everyone involved from different departments, from different levels of our organization to answer some questions, to just talk to people, see what their feelings are, see what they're asking about. Now, that's a chance because we're putting ourselves out there, okay? But hopefully it starts to open up some of those doors that we can look at. We need to modernize our online presence. I get that. I really do. I get that. It's more difficult than I thought it would be. Today's world's changed so much. Your website can really drive a lot of what you do and how you use social media. So we need to do some training in that, and we need to get there. And if you give me $67,000 to do it, we do a really good one. I'm going to tell you that, but I doubt that you're going to approve that. So we'll work on that. I would like in 2019 to develop a community vision process for the city. Similar to those of you who've been around for a while, what the school system did back in 99, 2000, whatever, when they did the Vision 2000. That's good, it was in 2000. Where they started talking about the future and trying to lay out those plans. But something where you have some formalized things going around. I meet on a monthly basis with the college, with the hospital, Sonic, public schools. We're starting to get some other business groups that come in there. We meet monthly. And it's taking the people in that position and saying, what is this place? We're at a crossroads, I believe. Maybe some people don't agree. I believe we're at a crossroads in this community. I really do, because we've got some positive momentum. We've got some things happening. But what do we want this community to be in the future? I'm a little hesitant to say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Total's gone. And I'm not hesitant to say total's gone, because we know that. But there's still a mentality that kind of goes through this community that we still have that same community we had then. Now, there's nothing wrong with where we're at. But we've got to identify it, and we have to drive the next 10, 20, 30 years of what are we going to become. And it isn't based on that large piece of property out to the east that something's going to suddenly plop down there. We're going to have jobs galore, executives in a different type of community. That world is kind of doesn't exist that much anymore. It's hard to do that. So what do we want this community to be? And how do we want to drive ourselves towards trying to become that? One of the areas we look at is we're located right in the center of the state. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. We are 2 hours away from everything. And you can get there. In today's world, that doesn't bother people. We need to be better connected. We've got some meetings coming up with the college to try and figure out how do we better connect ourselves so that people will come here. I keep saying, if you look at what's been going on, Southeast Michigan, all the growth in Detroit, all the things that are going on in downtown Detroit happen. People want to get out of the rat race, they go to Grand Rapids. The beautiful west side of the state where we be in Grand Rapids, live downtown, do that. Well, Grand Rapids has slowly become Metro Detroit to the west because that same atmosphere started. There's got to be a group of people who love to live right in the center of the state, have access to go where they want. We're putting downtown apartments in. We've got storefronts downstairs to figure out what to do. Can we bring people here and give them that idea that you're actually not in the middle of nowhere, you're in the middle of everywhere? So how do we vision that? How do we get to that next step? What do we want to be? This is going to require an awful lot of leadership, patience, determination, and community involvement. We can't tell them what they're going to be. We got to get them to help us decide what they want to be. So those are the things really in the next year we'd like to develop in community engagement. Community development, we need to continue to build those relationships with the institutions and business communities in the area. It was kind of like, not too long ago, this city really changed at the railroad tracks at Wright and Superior. College was over here, and here was the city, and these are the townies, these are the college folks, and we didn't do a lot of things together. The reality is, in the meetings that we have frequently, right, Jim, that as the college goes, the city goes, as the city goes, the college goes. We need each other. The hospital, Masonic, the businesses we have, we need each other in order to make this community grow. And so we need to really understand that interconnected needs would make this a great place to live. And we can't separate ourselves. It's not us versus them. We have to do things together and continue that. I think we've got a really good start to some of that. We have to continue that. This is a big one to me. We need to educate the community on the need to be accepting of change when we talk about development. And I know this is a difficult one. I have heard this, and I put it in quotes. The city doesn't want to change or do anything for growth. Heard that for a while. The city's never very cooperative. They don't really want to change. They don't want to do anything. Well, I can tell you what. We have really tried to do a lot of things to help develop the city and to grow over the last year and a half. But people resist what they don't understand. Because it's easier to take the rumor mill, to take the little thing and jump on. And Eric and I talked a lot. He's started some of these processes that we're going to get out in front of some things to answer questions, to have an open dialogue with people about some of the change we're looking at. We have to be open to new ideas. The conditional rezoning ordinance is a huge way for us to look at being open to new ideas that we still have control of. We're not losing control of the city at that point. We're making good decisions that will help us go. Status quo in today's world does not mean this. Status quo, you're doing this. You're falling behind. If you're staying where you're at in today's world, you're actually falling behind. So we've got to be willing to talk with the community, to get them to understand why we want to do some of these things. These aren't fly-by-night decisions. These are things that have been vetted out through the Planning Commission, through the different boards and things that we have, and through the City Commission that we find are good. I'm not saying every one is a slam dunk great idea, but we need to be open to looking at things and where we want to go. And again, as I said, we have to develop and identify our goals for the future. If we don't look to the future, I can guarantee we'll just continue along the path, which means we're falling behind. So we need to be looking to the future. Tree replacement downtown, you can't talk to some people without that's the first thing out of their mouth. We've got to do something about that. And then Eric's identified that. But it's going to be one of those battles, because as soon as you do something to a tree, it does, I don't care how much it's grown over the top of the building and everything, people are like, oh my God, you're getting rid of that tree. Yes, we have a plan. I even look now within the departments, we have different things. Alan's there looking at getting our own you call it?
Stump grinder.
Stump grinder. That will actually be able to take the stump out, pull it out, and then have a hole for another tree right there, without having to hire somebody to come in or to have the shower of the sawdust all over downtown, okay? But that's gonna take some planning. We know the parking lots are a mess. And it's not that we're turning a deaf ear to the parking lots being a mess, it's we have to prioritize those things. But if we prioritize the parking lot, that means something else may have to change. And so we have to prioritize and decide. We're investing an awful lot in downtown, and we have people who are investing in our downtown, okay? And because they're investing in our downtown, we need to figure out ways to do these things in our parking lots and to make them better and to do some of that. So that's really the community development aspect that I'd like to see us look at. Unfortunately, we can't ever talk about anything without having to talk about how we're going to fund it, how you're going to finance it. And you can't blow that one off, because it is important. But I will tell you, notice I don't have a graph up here that talks about revenue sharing. Because we always hear about revenue sharing. Guess what? It's down. Guess what? It really doesn't exist like it used to. Well, those of us that fail to plan and still want to just keep looking, going, hey man, we don't get our money from the state anymore. Well, that's a known now. So we've got to figure out ways then to operate within our means and where we're at. I'm not the greatest believer in, write your congressman a letter. Write them that form letter that they send you and then you sign on the bottom. Because, I can just imagine, oh my God, there's the one from Matt Scully from Elma. We're going to renew, we're going to get you your revenue sharing back. We've just been waiting for you to be the one to ask. Okay? We can be upset with the state, we can have those, we can have our opinions, we can try to push that through the lobby and through the people who do that, but on a daily basis, those of us working right here, right now, we got to operate within our means. We got to figure out the better ways to do it. And so we have to explore different ways to better utilize our finances and our resources. I stopped, that's the new reality. The new reality is we don't have revenue sharing. I got ahead of myself, sorry. We don't have those things. We need to initiate discussions with our neighbors about shared service agreements. We have a number of things being talked about that are just not ready to go out in public and to really get deep in, but there are a number of services that all of us are providing. And I know that's a hard thing because nobody wants to lose what's ours. We don't want to lose our identity as a community. I get it. I'd also tell you, I believe over the last 5 to 8 years, what community is has really, really changed. Right? It's not about all of those things of having all of our own. Community is about what's going on downtown and getting people here to live and getting people to do different things. We'll make community what we need to make. When we're providing services to people, generally people just would like you to provide them the service in a timely and a good manner. So we need to talk to our neighbors about what are those things. And you got to set aside some of those things that we've been holding on to for years. That's hard, I understand that. But I really believe communities that are open to looking at creative and outside-the-box solutions are the ones that are going to survive. If you don't do that, you're going to wonder what happened. You're going to look back and suddenly go, I didn't even notice how much we were changing, and now we're way, way, way behind, and we can't catch up. So we need to look at that. We need to do a continued real analysis of our internal service priorities and our costs. It's the same thing you guys were talking about the whole time they've been speaking to you. We have to constantly be looking at ways, how do we better utilize our people, whether it's through training, cross-training, whether it's, but we got to think outside the box on how we're going to do that, okay? And how are we going to utilize it? How are we going to start to really deal with our internal costs? I would tell you that one of the biggest rubs that has been in this organization now for a number of years was our internal cost structure, how we determined who was paying for what. We didn't understand it. None of us did. Now that we're starting to understand it, we really don't understand it. Now as we're looking at it, we've got to look at some ways. We've got to look at some ways of what's the best way to do this. Are we overpricing ourselves? We can't do that. We can't do that. And we have to educate the community about this stuff. They have to understand. They have to understand that we don't sit here in a bubble and make decisions. We're trying to look at the overall. And I know when you get a special interest that you're working on, your focus really gets narrow. And so when we can't do certain things, it's not because we don't want to, we don't believe in it. We have to look at it in this other prism that we're looking through. Okay? But we have to be open and tell them that's why we're doing that. We have to invite them in to see what is it that we do here? How do we do this? And then it is we can say, well, the general public really just wants things to go and they don't care. That's true, but then we've got to force our ideas on them to make them understand why we do what we do. So I don't think, it's only 10 after 7, this is good. I don't think that I can go through this whole talk and this whole process and not land back right here where we started, on triple. This is the way that the City of Alma employees, the commission, and everybody needs to start thinking of things. The T for teamwork. We work together, communicating clearly and openly with one voice to support each other and a commitment to our common goals. Teamwork. I heard the word team tonight more than I've heard it. That was fantastic because I do think we're getting there. Respect. We treat citizens and coworkers with courage and professionalism. That's just basic common good. Okay? Integrity. We strive to be honest, transparent, ethical, and consistent in all our interactions between staff members and with the community. Of course we are. Of course we want to do that. Being transparent is hard. Being transparent can be very, very difficult. Being transparent doesn't mean we open our entire world to you. We have to make decisions sometimes that don't get out, that are made, than how we do things. But being transparent, our overall approach to our communication and our dealings with the community will get us there. Pride. This, I think we're getting there. We're passionate about our work, proud of the service we provide, proud of our city. If you work for us and you're not proud to be here, then you should go somewhere else. And I think that has to become part of that lifting us all up thing to do and be there for each other. We have to continue to seek ways to learn and improve the resources that we have for the community. That involves us taking a real active look at our training so that we know we're getting our people and we're putting our people that work here in the best possible position to succeed. I feel horrible sometimes when I'm looking back and I'll look at something and I'll go, why are we screwing that up? And then I realize because that person's been here for 20-some years and they were never told how to do their job. So when you talk to them, did you ever have training? No. You never had? No, not really. I was told, here, do this. And I figured it out over those years to do it my own way. So we've got to continue to try to learn. Then we have to strive to be excellent. Being good isn't enough. We have to try to raise that bar. We have to try to raise that bar together. So in closing, commitment and dedication to those 6 core values across the board. Top to bottom, from the commission, the administration, to the managers, to the staff, to everyone who works or is associated with this organization needs to understand, do our actions reflect triple? It's pretty easy. Ask yourself that question when faced with a decision or a situation. If you can answer yes to that, then how will we become the better community that we all want to be? Triple. 6 easy words, but they mean so much more. And that's up to us now to start to make that be the thing that drives us more forward. So I am more than welcome to take any questions, comments, anything that you have about where we're trying to go, what we're trying to do.
I felt like you were talking really fast and you weren't breathing.
I know.
It's giving me a little bit of anxiety. I was like, just breathe, man. I just wanted to tell you, check with IT Right about website development. We've been talking with them a little bit about our
Okay.
email and website, and it's a lot cheaper
But
than
then $67,000.
But
And,
that
and
money-
careful that this group might turn on you right now because IT Right, we had a little incident, not an
Oh, we
incident
did.
today.
No.
It wasn't an incident. They couldn't do some work today. They slowed our computers down to
Oh.
like a drag. No, and we're going through a process. We understand that. But every time we mention that word now, everybody gives me an eye dart. And I'm like, I know. We'll get there. We'll get there. So thank you. Yeah. We've also talked with them, so you know too, about organizational email. Right now, not everybody that works for the City of Alma has an email. And one of our hard parts is how do we communicate some of these things out to everybody, to staff employees? I have a really hard time of getting that stuff out. I know you don't believe this, but a lot of people don't want to give you their personal email as the boss. You know, they're like, no, I'm not giving you that. And so they can do it much cheaper than what we've been doing, so we might look at something like that. So thank you.
Well, if I could, I mean, I heard a lot of great information tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming and sharing what you're all doing and the departments you lead. You know, it's exciting to me, the direction the city's going and the accomplishments that have been made in the last year. You know, we've invested a little money into some IT, got some new software, you guys are getting it up and running. It takes time for that to kick in, and I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of benefits from that as it goes forward. But the most exciting piece of all this is when I hear about training, and I hear you guys talking about training, you're gonna train people, you know, go out and find the best practices. find out what other people are doing. You know, you don't have to come up with it yourselves. Some of the best ideas are stolen, you know, just go steal other people's ideas. If you see somebody doing something right when you're traveling around the state, steal their ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great way to do it. So I thank everybody, and you know, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. The core values are terrific. Matt, you talked about, you know, customer service training. Everybody has a customer. Everybody in my organization at work, whether they're internal customers or external customers, they're customers. When somebody's asking you a question about your department, about your work, they are your customer. Whether it's your coworker, your employee, whoever it is, treat them with respect, they're your customer. It's like just a great way to operate, and it'll take you where you want to go. So I thank you guys. I thank everybody for everything. It's been a great year, and I think 19's going to be even better.
I think one of the areas we've grown in a lot is when we talk about some of these concepts and that, and I'll be honest, when we talked about having a leadership training on March 1st, even, I don't know if it was who it was, maybe she had said, you know, you're not going to make me get on a table and catch me falling off, you know, the trust thing. I know. Sometimes you get carried away in some of that stuff, and I think that you have to make sure that we're not doing this stuff isn't soft. It doesn't make it. We're not soft because we want input from our employees. We're not soft because we want our community to do this. Nobody's going to tell us how to do our jobs. We're going to do our jobs to the best of our ability, and to do them to the best of our ability, we need that input, and we need to be open to that input and to look at things that way. And so what in a short period of time that the group here especially has embraced to look at, it is exciting to see where we could go. But, I'll keep saying it, we've just taken the first few steps up the hill. I mean, it's still a long ways to go, but I think we have a group that wants to do it. That's probably the biggest part. So, thank
Matt,
you
I
very
just
much.
wanted to say to you, as a citizen and a commissioner for 24 days, 2 weeks, I guess, I have heard from several employees since you took over that the atmosphere has changed in every building, every aspect of the city, because you are showing that you care. So I just want to make sure that you were aware that everybody is very appreciative of you. Tonight was very exciting to see all the accomplishments, and it is a great town. And obviously everybody sitting at these tables and in this room cares about Alma, and I'm very thankful to be a part. But Matt, I wanted you to know that, you know, top to bottom, people are noticing your energy, your spirit, your love for the town. And it.
I'm still not from here.
What?
I'm still not from here.
I know. Well,
That is interesting here all the time. 28 years now, you're sitting here, just go, yeah, but you're not from here. I know.
correct. But thank you.
Thanks. We have an opportunity in front of us. We do have an opportunity. And that's what keeps me up at night now, is saying, okay, we've got to this point. And we can't rest and say, oh, okay. It doesn't mean, guys, I'm not here to tell you that we don't have problems at work, that we don't have issues that we deal with every single day. We do. I'd like to say that we are trying to work on things. We are trying to work on things in a different manner that are more productive and more, and makes us more happy. And again, Joe, I'm going to come back to you because I don't think I could have, I didn't understand what I was even really supposed to be doing to a certain extent. And so a lot of those things that I don't get of the meeting or how we're supposed to do these formal things and that, she actually does them mostly for me and just says, here, read this, or here, sign this. Really makes it work, because I would rather work on this. This is the area that excites me, and I think we can do some really, really, really good things if we all just continue down on a positive path. Today's world is really easy to turn negative. It's so simple, you know, and I'm not going to deal with the negative. I mean, I'll deal with my job, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to deal with just the negative attitude. That's fine, scoot aside, because here we're coming through. We can do that. I think if we continue down that path, we'll be in really good shape.
You're here.
So, thank you. Not bad.
You say you don't know what you're doing, Matt, but you know how to manage. You put good people in place and you get out of their way. And that's exactly what's going on here. So
We got really good people.
Really good people.
I think I thought I knew that. I thought I always knew that we have good people, but I will tell you, we have really, really, really good people that work here. And you said it, that care, that do care. And I think that goes all through the organization, and that's what has to continue. So we will put our best foot forward.
Matt, I think this is a neat time to be, a great time to be starting a lot of new stuff, which we are doing. I'm sitting, looking around this table, and I'm thinking to one of the first ones of these meetings that I attended 5 years ago. And we were looking at the real problems with succession. Look at this department head that's going to be retiring within 2 or 3 years. We need to start training people to replace people. Look around this table now. How many people have been in, either new to this organization or in a new job in this organization here? This is a good time.
And people have grabbed on. That's been amazing to me to see that not only the new people we've brought here, but the people who've been here in different capacity or whatever, that they have grabbed the role and really, really ran with it and have really good intentions with what we're doing. So, again, I'd be lying if I told you we don't have issues. Of course we do. But I think that we're figuring out how we deal with our issues. Alan says it all the time. If you have an issue, tell me a solution. Give me your solution. Eventually, if I don't like it, it doesn't matter, because that's what we've all decided, and we just need to keep on it. So, in case you didn't know, I'm going on vacation.
I only had it down for
So next week should be a really good week for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.